There's a concept in aging research that doesn't get nearly enough attention outside academic circles, yet it has profound implications for how we should be thinking about protein intake as we get older. It's called the leucine threshold, and understanding it might fundamentally change your approach to maintaining muscle mass and strength in your later years. Here's the core issue. As you age, your muscles become increasingly resistant to the anabolic signals that normally trigger muscle protein synthesis. This phenomenon, called anabolic resistance, means that the same amount of protein that would stimulate muscle building in a young person has progressively less effect as you age. Your muscles essentially become harder to impress. They require stronger, more concentrated signals to respond appropriately. And this is where leucine, a specific amino acid particularly abundant in animal proteins, becomes critically important. Research has identified that older adults need approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal to effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis. This isn't a suggestion or an optimal target, it's more like a threshold that needs to be crossed for your muscles to respond at all. Below this threshold, you're essentially wasting the muscle-building potential of your meal. The problem is that reaching this leucine threshold with plant proteins alone is challenging and requires consuming much larger volumes of food. Let's look at the numbers practically. A serving of beef or chicken provides roughly 2 to 3 grams of leucine. Whey protein is even more concentrated. But to get equivalent leucine from plant sources, you'd need to consume substantially more total protein, often requiring unrealistic portion sizes, especially for older adults who typically have reduced appetites. This isn't about plant proteins being inferior in some absolute sense. It's about concentration and practicality for a population that struggles to eat enough as it is. The distribution of protein across meals matters enormously here. Many older adults consume minimal protein at breakfast, moderate amounts at lunch, and most of their daily protein at dinner. But if that dinner is the only meal crossing the leucine threshold, you're only triggering muscle protein synthesis once daily. Research suggests that distributing protein more evenly, hitting that leucine threshold at least 2 or 3 times daily, provides superior muscle maintenance compared to the same total daily protein consumed unevenly. Now here's the concerning part that needs emphasis. Age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, isn't just about aesthetics or athletic performance. It directly predicts mortality, functional independence, metabolic health, and quality of life. People who maintain muscle mass as they age stay independent longer, have better metabolic control, show lower risk of falls and fractures, and frankly live longer with better quality of life. This makes adequate protein intake, specifically hitting leucine thresholds, a longevity strategy, not just a bodybuilding concern. For older adults, protein recommendations have been creeping upward as this research accumulates. We're now looking at 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram body weight daily, substantially higher than the outdated RDA. And it's not just about total amount. It's about quality, concentration of essential amino acids, and meal distribution. Animal proteins make hitting these targets vastly more straightforward than plant proteins, particularly for older adults with limited appetite. There are protein scoring systems, PDCAS and the newer DIS, that attempt to quantify protein quality based on amino acid profiles and digestibility. Animal proteins consistently score higher. This isn't bias, it's reflection of amino acid composition. Plant proteins can absolutely support muscle maintenance, but it requires higher total intake and more careful planning to ensure adequate leucine at each meal. For those avoiding animal products by choice or necessity, combining protein sources within meals helps. But supplementation with leucine or branched-chain amino acids often becomes necessary to reliably hit those thresholds. The stakes are simply too high to accept suboptimal muscle protein synthesis as acceptable collateral damage of dietary choices. Maintaining muscle mass fundamentally affects how you age and ultimately how long you remain independent and functional.